Hello and welcome to another episode of Gotham Sound TV, GSTV. We're doing an Ask Us Anything with Karl Winkler of Lectrosonics and Dan Woodall of Rode. Karl and Dan, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having us. Many of your viewers know me pretty well. Karl Winkler. I'm EVP of Product Design and Distribution here at Lectrosonics. I've been here for almost 21 years. Amazing to think of that. And I've been in pro audio for 30-something years. And I know I've met and worked with many of your customers and the viewers. So great to see everybody here. And Dan Woodall.
Yeah, look, very excited to be here. Great to see everyone here on the stream. So my name's Dan, and I work at I'm part of the Lectrosonics team now. So not Rode anymore. I worked in the Friedman Group for nearly 10 years, obviously covering the Rode brand. But now I'm part of the Lectrosonics team, which is very exciting for me. My history, for those who are interested, I started as a sound engineer. I trained as a tonmeister in the UK. And I've worked at quite a few different audio companies around the way. In fact, Karl and I have kind of crossed paths at a couple of them before, but now we're back together at Lectrosonics. And yeah, very excited to be here.
Nice. Well, thank you both for being here. And you're joining us from Rio Rancho, New Mexico.
We are. Yep.
Great. So thank you. The hot topic is going to be about the acquisition of Lectrosonics and what it means. And all of those things. But Karl and Dan, I know you had some things that you wanted to cover before we dove into those questions.
Yes, thanks so much. So I want to do a quick semi-review here of the latest stuff, and that is Wireless Designer. We added recently the ability to create and edit tuning groups, and this plays into the whole idea of the party dialing. So this is a powerful feature. So in the past, you had to do all of this in the receiver itself. And then we added the ability to have named tuning groups so you could have names next to the entry. And then we added the ability to have different compat modes in every entry. So that's already in the receivers like the 822 and the DSR4. So recently, though, we added the ability to create and edit these tuning groups in Wireless Designer. So here we see a list of 4 in the group U: Adam, Daniel, Jane, and Jen. Each of these with a different frequency, some of these with different compat modes. And we can edit these, create more, save this tuning group to a file, and then bring it up. So already it's portable. Then you can also send this to the receiver. So then from the receiver, you can blow it into transmitters via infrared and things like that. So it's a very powerful feature. I think people particularly doing unscripted work are the ones that were asking for this to be expanded. And so it's quite handy. And so from here, though, I want to jump into a quick deck. So we're looking at the front panel. This is a screenshot from this video on YouTube channel. And we see this tuning group. Receiver channel 1, we're pulling up Adam, and it pulls up the frequency and the compat mode. This is also editable in the receiver itself. And then we see here Jane, this is on a different frequency. And because it's new hybrid mode, we also see the block and the hex code. So that's for those older users that might have something as old as a UM400A, for instance. So this has become quite powerful. And again, now it's very portable, editable in Wireless Designer, extremely powerful feature. So another topic I want to talk about is the domestic B1C1 band. I think I've covered this in a live stream earlier, but I want to review it real quickly. Most people are familiar with the A1B1 band. This covers 470 to 608 megahertz in the US and Canada. And then, of course, we have these little chunks up above 600 that are actually legal to use with certain restrictions. But the A1B1 band does not cover those. So we've created this B1C1 domestic band, and we have certification for this on the DSSM already, and it'll be in additional products coming soon. The point here is that spectrum has gotten so hard to find in the normal TV channels. So this is a way of adding in another about 12 megahertz between the guard band just above, that's in like a 614 megahertz, and then the duplex gap from 652 to 663 megahertz. So this B1C1 domestic band is already certified. As I said, it already takes care of the power limits in those parts of the spectrum and makes it super easy to use. So if someone is in a metro area with a lot of trouble finding spectrum, this is a new tool that can help a lot with that. So in terms of what products have this, the DSSM is the first transmitter. It's already out. It's already on the shelf. We've already sold units in that band. And then there's 5 different receivers that we have available in the B1C1 band. So that's the DCHR, the M2RA, the DCR822, the DSR, and the DSR4. All have, we have those in the B1C1 frequency band for you.
Well, and not to forget about the DCHT as well, because that's, to me, right, I always am, when people ask me like, well, what should I do with my camera hops or my IFB sends? I'm always get it as far away from your Talent wireless as possible. And having that slim part of the spectrum in the, the guard band or the duplex gap, it's kind of ideal.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's another way of looking at it. We always recommend in our sort of best practices efforts to keep all of your talent in the biggest spectrum possible and then move everything else, camera hops, IFBs, IEMs, somewhere.
Yep.
And this is part of that strategy. So thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, I want to talk about HDM mode. This is something that often gets overlooked. This is a high density mode that is available in a number of our products, including the DSSM and the DBSM transmitter family. And what it is a narrow carrier, 120 kilohertz occupied bandwidth instead of 200 kilohertz, and it's ultra linear. It's at a low power. So that means you can stack these things right next to each other with no intermods. And in the screenshot I show you here, we've actually got 40 of these working in one TV channel. It's probably more than I'd recommend for daily use, but we know people have found this to be incredibly useful. And I want to mention that the question has come up to us about, hey, what does that sound like? Is it restricted sound quality? Is it MP3-like and garbled or whatever, lossy? And the answer is no. It sounds very, very good. The top end frequency response is 15 kilohertz, which is, a little bit of a sacrifice, but it sounds really good. All we did is reduce the sample rate. We're not doing any heavy data compression or anything like that. So I challenge everyone to take a listen to it. And if you're wondering, well, how far could I go at this low power? In this video here, I talk about HDM mode, and I did a walk test where I walked out probably something like 50 meters, maybe a bit more, with the transmitter on this HDM mode. And there is the receiver, and I didn't get a single dropout. And this is outside in an uncontrolled environment.
A little breezy, hopefully not too bad. Walking in between the sages here. Got to get out to the end of the property over here, see how we're doing.
So it actually will walk incredibly well. So that's HDM mode.
And is HDM for the digital transmitters? Is that for the digital hybrid transmitters? Which one does that work on?
That's digital only.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great. So we talked about the DSSM quite a bit already, but I'm going to mention a couple other things so that everyone's familiar. So here it is. It's a dock charging unit, and this comes in super handy for like broadcast studios. And you mentioned an application. I'll let you talk about that in a second. But we do get the question about the connectors. Are they watertight? Or, people say, well, I'm concerned because LEMO is, the LEMO 3-pin is not a watertight connector and so on. But we made the effort to ensure that these connectors, the SMA antenna connector and the 3-pin mic connector, are watertight in and of themselves. So here's a unit. You see it's turned on. I'm going to go ahead and just drop it in my Breaking Bad mug here. And there it is in the water. It's watertight even with nothing connected. So that's different than our watertight units from the past. Just want to make sure everyone saw that. So tell us about, you'd mentioned it in the pre-roll about someone who ended up with this system.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I know that one of the things that you wanted to say is that the DSSM is a preventative tool, right? So the waterproofness, it's not just niche. It's something that can be, you can see the benefits on a regular basis. This is a bit of a niche thing, but we did have a hot yoga studio, where they routinely keep their studio at 105 degrees, which it was outside this weekend when I biked there. And they've just been sweating through mics, sweating through transmitters, sweating through everything. So we spec'd out a DSSM system with the charger and with the voice text waterproof headsets, the 702 WA. And just the idea behind that is it is a completely locked down, sweat-proof environment. Like you should never have to open the battery door. You can just wipe it off and charge it. It is a more expensive system, and they really had to think about it, whether it was worth that versus, recycling the kind of Bluetooth ones they'd been using. And eventually they did decide that it was worth it because they just kept having their classes being interrupted. So we're excited to see more people start adopting the DSSM for those kind of preventative things, to not ruin takes, to not ruin that for the one-off sweat or for the rain scenes or however that just kind of pop up on the regular.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point because we get this question too, or it's more of a statement, but it's like, well, I don't think I'm ever going to be in a situation where this thing is submerged. So I don't think I need, the IP57 rating or whatever it is. But, what we're trying to get across is it doesn't need to be submerged. Even sweat can destroy electronics, and we've all seen it many times. So
yep.
It's really more of a general purpose transmitter, full featured. It's got all the same features in it that the DBSM does, for instance, and it's watertight. So
yeah,
it's a general purpose watertight body pack transmitter.
All right. Well, what else you got? Because we are starting to get some questions here in the comments.
Great. Looking forward to the questions.
First one is from Rick Alexander. There's actually two. First one says, Karl! Exclamation point. But the question is the FCC going to take away frequencies from the industry again?
Difficult to answer. I mean, there's some rumblings of these things, with the administration in there and kind of looking to monetize anything and everything. But those things take a while. The last one, it went through Congress in 2012 and then was official in 2018. So that's a 6-year span. Really hard to predict. I think that the NAB and the industry lobbyist groups and so on are putting up a good fight to explain how important the spectrum is for a wide range of users. So really impossible to predict.
Yeah. Paul Katzman said, more of a PSA, but if you're concerned about the auction, please join the WMSA and make your voice heard. As a user and also as a manufacturer, Electro, we're stronger together. And I know that you, as a manufacturer, are involved in speaking to Congress and all of those things.
Yeah, we've been to Washington. I've got a great photo with me, with Joe Ciadelli and Mark Bruner and Jackie Green. We went to the FCC. We went to Washington to lobby. And so these groups are very valuable. So absolutely, it's important that we do our lobbying.
Yes. All right. Next question. Justin Ross says, we're all here to get one question answered, but did not ask the question. So I'm going to leave that open-ended and move on to the next question and give Justin a chance to ask it as they would see fit. Otherwise, I'll just ask what I think it might be later.
Sure.
So moving on, John Kowalski says, what trending technology not employed in the Lectro line excites you most? And I'm going to add my own, WiMAS question mark or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start. There's a lot of exciting technology out there. And, our new parent company has some of that, which is fantastic. And, we've already been, the engineering meetings that Dan talked about, it's all about sharing what we know and learning more together. And so it is very exciting. WiMAS is very interesting. It has some limitations, it has some strengths. We're seeing some of the first products come out and we're watching carefully, but it's one of many things we're looking at.
All right, so Justin wrote, will you assemble your products in Australia so that outside of the US you can transmit and record? So now we're starting to dig into the part that I'm really excited about is what does Lectro joining the Freeman Group mean? So that's the first question we kind of have there is, will you assemble your products in Australia? What does it mean for transmitting and recording outside of the U.S.?
All right, two separate questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll take the first part.
Okay.
We're going to continue to build our products in the United States. This factory here is being invested in people and other things as well. So that is the current plan. But to the second part of the question, I'll let Dan answer that.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on the manufacturing, I guess piece first. One of the interesting things around this acquisition and joining the Friedman Group is actually how similar these companies are. Rode and Lectrosonics seem like very different on the surface, but we both have a passion for manufacturing. Having the engineering and the manufacturing all on site. Everybody working in one place. It's very, we have a manufacturing facility now in the US as part of the group, which is also, which is very exciting. But we will continue to manufacture Lectrosonics products here, as Karl said, and obviously we'll continue to manufacture other group products in Sydney. There's always opportunities for, all kinds of, sort of collaborations and efficiencies and things like that. But right now,
if I can jump in just 1 second,
is still staying here.
Sorry. And I've been to the factory over in Sydney, and it's incredibly impressive. I mean, I love what we do here, and they've got machinery and technology that we don't have, and we have some things they don't have. But the idea of, hey, there's probably kinds of parts and things, and we're even talking about one specific part already that could be molded there because of their incredible molding facilities that we couldn't make here. So there's a lot of that coming.
A huge amount of synergies in that, in terms of as part of a group working together in all those things. But at the core level, the core manufacturing and assembly of Lectrosonics remains here. So that leads to the next question, which
question
I think,
number 2.
Yes, which I guess
it
was the easiest. It was the easiest bet in the world as to whether it was going to come up. And
Yep.
yes, so we do have something to say about that. So simultaneous record and transmit is something we are actively working on. So that is something we are looking at. We have engineers looking at it at the moment. But we're not so we do have some things to talk about, but not quite yet. So we're still working through all the details of this. We will be making an announcement about how this will come together, how it'll be rolled out, on which products and where, by the end of July. So I'm sorry we can't answer the question today, but stay tuned. There is, we are looking at this. And as I said, we will be in a position to tell you more in a few weeks' time.
Okay, great. So another question from John Scogland. Why is HDM mode 4 milliwatts on the DSSM and 2 milliwatts on other digital transmitters?
Sure. Well, the DSSM is newer in design, and we were able to get some newer parts and a little bit interesting kind of design approach to it. So we're able to double that power for the HDM. We're on the older units that were designed, let's say 3, 4, 5 years ago. It wasn't possible then. So we may be able to expand it into those units, but at the moment, the DSSM is the only one with that 4 milliwatts. By the way, the video I made, though, where I walk 50 plus meters was with the 2 milliwatts. So even 2 milliwatts performs incredibly well.
Great. Perfect. Eric Magnus said, now that Lectrosonics is part of the Friedman Group, is there a timeline for next generation Lectrosonics digital wireless systems?
I don't know about a formal timeline. We've certainly talked a lot about it. In fact, this week we're making product roadmaps and kind of designing form factors and whatnot. So early stages, but it's definitely in the works. So.
Yeah, and I think it's probably worth picking up on that comment because, to Karl's point, we just come to the end of almost 2 weeks of being together, and we've been working through, what the plans are for the future, and there's some really exciting things, huge energy here. But it's probably also just worth, reiterating, the purpose of this acquisition and bringing Lectrosonics into the group is to continue to push the boundaries of the finest, wireless systems in the world. Lectrosonics, is the pinnacle of UHF wireless right now, and our aim is to continue to invest, continue to work together, bring some of the technologies from different parts of the group into this, and then, push that boundary ever higher, ever further. So, that is really the goal. And so we are building big plans for, how that will come together. Unfortunately, a little bit early, a few weeks in, to be announcing timelines for, new product launches. But there's definitely a lot of excitement, and the work has already started.
Fantastic. And I guess, this would lead to, just if you could expand on that, what has it meant? What has changed? Because a lot of people, there's always speculation like, Lectro's just going to be absorbed into Rode, and it's going to become a separate thing, or it's going to become different, and it's going to change. Like, what has it meant? What has actually changed since the acquisition?
It's a good question. I think it's probably worth just sort of reminding people, I guess, that obviously people say Rode, as, that's where the acquisition has come from.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually the Friedman Group. And it's sometimes not, well remembered, or just because Rode is such a big brand.
Sure.
But the Friedman Group is actually a number of brands. In fact, on this wall behind us, we can see, many of these logos, including Lectrosonics. But there are other high-end kind of broadcast brands in the group already, brands like, Soundfield. And the idea, the way that the Friedman Group works is this is not a kind of everything just gets lumped into this kind of master brand, which is Rode. It's really about keeping the identity and the positioning of each of the brands in the group, but delivering synergies, with manufacturing, with technology, with IP across the group to make all of those brands, really be able to succeed, in their sort of niche or in their market segment. And that is really how it will work with Lectrosonics. I mean, Karl, you may want to add a bit more to
Yeah,
that.
I think, well, Peter Friedman, I'll start with him. He talks about this, and you can see it in his interviews. He'd long admired Lectrosonics and, wanted to do something like that. And, it turned out that after some discussions about possible licensing of technology and things like that, that it just made more sense. As Dan mentioned, companies are more similar than you would imagine. They're larger than we are, but the goals are similar. So we thought, hey, let's bring the Lectrosonics group into the family so we can more freely share the technologies and R&D and the discussions to see how all this might fit together. But yeah, I don't get the sense of any kind of absorption. They're investing in our facility here. We're hiring people. I think you've seen my posts about all the positions that are open. And HR is extremely busy. I see interviews in here all day, and it's everything from machinists to engineers to accountants to salespeople. So clearly the Friedman Group is investing in Lectrosonics to succeed as a brand and as a company.
Good. Hey, that's great. That's exactly what one would want to hear. All right, let's go to some other questions. So Rick Alexander asked about encryption transmission. Is that are there plans to make that happen or change how it works currently?
Yeah, I mean, that's in all of our digital products currently. Everything from the DSSM to the M2RA to the M2T and DCR822. So the encryption we employ is the AES 256-bit CTR mode, pretty much the gold standard for encryption. And what makes our system unique is that we have 4 different key policies, which make it more flexible. There's everything from the universal key, which is the same key as in every product, which means when you get a Lectrosonics digital product, turn it on, it works. You don't need to fiddle with the key at all. And if encryption isn't important to you and you don't want to worry about it, you don't have to. It is encrypted. It's just with this key that's in every product. Mm-hmm. Then there's the standard mode, which you would say that's what you would want to use for most things, where you generate a unique 256-bit key in the receiver, give it to the transmitter or transmitters, and you're good to go. So your signal is rock solid, and no one's going to be able to crack that with any of the traditional known methods. We also, though, for sports broadcasting, we've created a shared key type because sometimes on a field you have cameras that you want receivers like a DCHR or an M2RA. You want those receivers to be on multiple cameras on the field, all sharing the same key. So this allows you to do that. You can generate a key and share it with a small number of units, including receivers. Then finally, the volatile mode, which is the ultimate. In encryption circles, it's called a one-time pad use. That means you've generated this unique key, and once those units are turned off, that key is gone. So it's the most secure, and that would be for sensitive government type stuff. So we have everything from universal to, black ops stuff. And we're not planning to change that. That's going to remain in the equipment. But every digital system we make today has it already in it.
Great. Perfect. Lei Busecki, I apologize if I am pronouncing the name wrong. Is Lectrosonics working on a rack mount product similar to the A10 rack? And so just to refresh the memory, the A10 rack there are still some B stock units available, but was a 1RU slot-in rack receiver that would be able to output 8 channels of analog or Dante for the older 2-channel slot receivers. Is there anything in the works similar to that, or even a full 1RU receiver period in the works?
To the first part, yes, that sort of thing is on our wish list, and it'll come down to whether or not we have the engineering resources to do it. It's been outlined and defined quite carefully, and it has some real nice features. The shortcut is that we do have a rack that doesn't have Dante, but you can mount any of our portable receivers, anything from a 411A to a DSR4, and all you need is a mounting and powering kit, which are very inexpensive. So that rack exists, but it doesn't have audio distribution. And I think that's what part of the question is being asked. So yes, that's on our wish list. It's been defined. Whether or not we do it or when we can do it is a question I don't have an answer for.
And we've just as an aside, we've had customers use that rack and then output into, let's say, a Sonifex box that has plenty of AES I/O and convert to Dante, and it works great. So you can, in one rack with a very small box, get to Dante if you want, with 16 channels, I think. I think it's a 16
Yeah,
I/O.
you can get 16 channels in one rack space with 4 DSR4s, and it's relatively inexpensive. And the RF distro is high quality. It's the same like you would find in a UMC 16B, with plus 27 dBm input overload. So it's a really high quality unit. The only thing it doesn't do is audio distribution.
Yeah. So Michael B has 2 questions. The first question is, how does Karl respond to almost every question in the Lectrosonics Facebook group so fast, it feels like we have him on a direct line 24/7? Karl, how do you do it?
I shouldn't talk about this, but I've got a couple clones. That,
there we go.
I don't know. It's always been important to me to be responsive, and every company where I've worked, I've tried to do that. So I would say this, though: if you do send me a note or there's a post on a Sunday, I do what I call Sans Social Sunday, and I don't check in on anything. So that's the one day, if you want to wait 24 hours, post on Sunday, and I won't answer till Monday. But thank you for that, and I appreciate the nod, because it's something that's important to me, for sure.
So their next question, will Lectrosonics introduce a quality meter in the future?
That's in discussion. Yeah, something that'll probably be part of future products, I imagine. Yeah.
Great. Jim Baker says the Lectrosonics encryption does not add latency to the transmission. I assume that's a statement, but can you confirm that is accurate?
Yes, it is. It does not add latency. And in terms of latency, our digital products are quite low, among the lowest available, at 1.4 milliseconds for the mono signal. No additional latency added with encryption, which I believe to be unusual. And our stereo is something like 1.8 total. So that would be like your duet platform, DCHR, DCHT is 1.8 milliseconds.
Great.
And again, no added latency.
Great. So I'm going to direct this next question to Dan. So Justin wants to know, the new transmitters that you make, will you add a mode that will switch the talent's accent to Australian?
I love it.
Yes.
That's actually possible now.
Yeah, well, look, there is a lot of opportunities. I mean, I'm actually British, as you can probably tell, but I've lived in Australia for a while, so I'm sort of stuck between accents.
You have a mix.
Yeah, I have a bit of a mix, but no, absolutely. So yeah, the accent plugin, the Oka Aussie accent plugin, is definitely coming soon. So yeah, stay tuned for that as well.
Fantastic. It's like you can almost make 2 shows at once if you could do that. The Bachelor America and the Bachelor Australia coming soon.
Hey, there's a thought, right?
I know that you guys don't like to talk about products before they're announced, but since we have a little bit of a lull, what kind of information can we pump you for about what you're working on and what you see the future is for Lectrosonics?
Well, one part that we can answer is that future digital products, at least for the next generation, will be on the D2 and HDM platform. That means that whatever they are, digital transmitters of today and receivers of today would be compatible with future products. And that's always been a Lectrosonics thing that we will maintain. Now, that doesn't mean there might be other modes that they do, other modulation schemes or transmission modes, but they will be D2 primarily and with the HDM option. So that's one thing. And, form factors these days are fairly well defined. So if you can think about the different types of transmitter form factors we offer today, that's probably not going to change much. Same with receivers. Although someone asked the question about, are you going to make a full rack receiver? And I mean, that's being discussed. Can't answer with any detail, but we are considering that.
Maybe one other thing, like one of the other expertise areas in the group is actually codec design. Lectrosonics also have a huge expertise in codec design, you know, some of the best sounding codecs in the industry. And so we've been getting codec engineers from Australia and Rio Rancho together, and there's been quite a lot of sparks flying. So I think that's another area where there'll probably be some interesting developments as well, you know, and of course, the more you can push that bit rate down while maintaining, you know, that broadcast quality, you know, it opens up, you know, other opportunities, you know, on the platform. So I think that's probably something that, will be, you know, an interesting area at least that we'll be exploring. So, yeah.
We saw some arm wrestling back there, right? No, mine's better. No, mine. No, but it's wonderful to see the engineers collaborating because, again, yeah, we're talking about a ton of talent here with a lot of background in digital audio. And to get those folks together is exciting for sure.
Great. Eric wants to know, or says they're still using digital hybrids with Venue 1s on set, which, Eric, you're not the only one. But what is the expected service and parts availability for this reliable older technology?
Yeah, that's definitely a case-by-case basis. You know, if we have the parts or the boards, we certainly have the expertise in the shop, you know. So it's going to be, we're going to need to see your model numbers and serial numbers to know, and your, you know, I mean, so we can determine whether or not it's something that's serviceable. But I think everyone knows that we service stuff quite far back. And so really, we've got a responsive parts and repair team. Get a hold of them, tell them what you got, what maybe is going wrong with it, and if we can repair it, we will.
Actually, that's that ethos, again, is actually, funnily enough, quite similar between the Friedman Group or across the Friedman Group. And it's one of the areas, too, that there's going to be some investment in, which is in the customer support, you know, here to help that become more responsive. Yeah. And that idea that, you know, if you buy a product from the Friedman Group, we will look after you and we will fix it, you know, if that's at all possible, is always been, you know, Peter Friedman's ethos, and it will continue. And yes, so that's definitely an area which, you know, Rode, for example, now offers 24/7 phone support worldwide, for example. So, you know, there's definitely, you know, that infrastructure, that group infrastructure is something we'll be leveraging into Lectrosonics as well.
And I think just a shout out to you guys about that Venue 1, because I think those products are at this point 15, 20 years old at minimum.
Yeah, it's a 20-year-old product. I think Venue 1 was introduced in 2004 or 2005. It was just introduced when I started here. And we made the narrowband, you know, one block only for a while. Then we made the wideband version. And so, I see those out there. There's still Venue fields out there. I see them on Instagram, you know, and in customers' equipment. And then we introduced Venue 2 in something like 2015. So that phased out Venue 1. So, yeah, the last Venue 1s were made more than 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah, for sure. So looking to the future again, Alex wants to know, will Lectrosonics add a remote control feature similar to what is already there with Rode Wireless?
Yeah, good instincts there. It's something we're looking at carefully, and we've got some really good ideas for that. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Great. John wants to know any possibility of giving the DCHT more functionality in terms of creating Flexlists and accessing Wireless Designer.
Great question. And it does support Flexlists now, but it's a little cumbersome. So I understand that. We'll be looking at that. And the idea that it would connect to Wireless Designer has come up a couple times. So I know our engineers are aware. So we're considering that.
Great. Well, so while we'll leave the forum open for a little bit longer to see if there are any extra questions that come in. So Dan, you've been back and forth quite a bit, you know, as this the Lectrosonics joining has been. What kind of food have you enjoyed in New Mexico?
Oh, look, it's all about the Christmas chilies, right, in New Mexico. So, you know, it's the red and the green everywhere we go. And actually, I like a hot chili too. So I've been very happy, actually. The spice level in Rio Rancho is definitely acceptable. So that's been, that's been great. We actually had some great tacos just for lunch yesterday. And went large on the chili sauce. So that's definitely been quite a highlight. Coming backwards and forwards.
And Karl, when you go to Australia, what's the food highlight there? I actually don't know anything about Australian cuisine at all.
It's a broad mix of stuff. I mean, Sydney being on the ocean there, you know, seafood is wonderful. And so when I was there a few weeks ago, I had a number of different types of meals. We had a wonderful dinner together at a fancy Chinese kind of place. It was really good. There's a lot of Japanese culture there. So the place where I stayed was kind of like a little Tokyo kind of area with lots of Japanese shops and restaurants. So I had some good food there. It was Wes's first time having conveyor belt sushi. Which
fun.
Which is a cool thing. Everyone has to do that at some point.
Yeah. But you didn't have a meat pie?
Didn't have a meat pie, so that's
yeah. Well, next time you come, when I moved to Australia, the Australian pie shop is probably the classic thing, and there's you have the steak and mushroom pie and the chicken pie, and there was a pie in the pie shop, and it's just called a plain pie, and I was like, a plain pie?
Like, what is it?
Yeah, anyway, it's just minced beef pie. That's the classic Aussie plain pie.
Okay,
got to start there. That's the reference point then. Great. I'll have that next time I'm there.
All right.
It may not be that good. Spoiler alert.
Okay. Well, you never know.
I'll try anything once. I mean, as they say, what are the mushroom, poisonous mushrooms? They're edible once.
All right, so Bulls Promo TV said, I just sent a request yesterday for an alternative mic to the NTH100M, which I'm not familiar with. It's brilliant for commentary of outdoor sports, but way too sensitive. I asked for a Supercardioid version.
So the NTH mic, or the NTH100M, the mic is a boom mic, which clips to Rode headphones, including the ones we're wearing today, and the over-ear NTH100s. And it is a high-quality Omni capsule in that mic, and it is quite sensitive, that's for sure. There is no other option. So we don't have a cardioid or hypercardioid option right now. So understand, that might be for more professional sort of outdoor environment, something that's quite useful, but unfortunately, not something we can offer right now.
Is that on the drawing board, or do you know?
Oh, look, everything is on the drawing board.
Right,
Karl, of course.
That's just like our previous answers.
But no, I mean, there's no current plans to introduce a new mic in that range, I would say.
Thank you for that, because that's not a model number I'm familiar with, and I think that going forward, I will be familiarizing myself with the other products in the Friedman group. Eric says that a single rack of 18 or 16 digital receivers is an extremely desirable concept. Other brands are doing this, always trying to reduce weight on my sound cart. Please develop this. That is an official request.
Message received.
All right. Well, look, that's the end of our questions now. I'm not going to filibuster any longer. But if you have future questions, please leave them in the chat, and we'll try to get them answered. Dan and Karl are readily accessible, except for Sundays.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, Karl, Dan, anything you'd like to share before we wrap things up?
No, I think we've covered a wide range of topics. Thanks so much to the Gotham team. You guys always do a great job with this. We really appreciate the forum and your questions, and we love hearing from everybody and kind of like what your product desires are and where you'd like to see things go. That helps us cement our ideas. So thank you for that.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Karl said, thanks so much, and thank you for everyone for joining us today. Hope you've been able to learn a few things, and we've answered a few questions. And for us, and for me in particular, joining Lectrosonics from the group, this is also great to learn and to listen and to sort of get to know you folks and give you the opportunity to tell us what you want, and we are listening. So we love these opportunities, and thanks to the Gotham team for hosting us today.
Very great. Karl, Dan, thank you so much for being here. Everybody who is watching, thank you for watching. Everybody who commented, thank you for commenting. Please, like I said, keep them coming. So for this video and more, you can visit us at gothamsound.tv. You can watch all of our past videos. You can follow us on many social media platforms that are hopefully on your screen right now, but that includes Facebook and Instagram. And as always, you can message Karl on every day but Sunday. And if you have ideas or questions about anything you'd like to see or hear from us, you can always email us at info@gothamsound.com. And again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you all.